reputation, but a reputation can be damaged in a matter of minutes, and this board's reputation is now in need of repair. As Executive Director Mcguire shared in recent correspondence, 2022 will be a big year which will shape the future of our district for many years to come. Until this board gets its house in order, setting direction and vision is going to be very difficult. I truly hope I can be part of the solution and committed to working with the other commissioners here towards that goal. As for common themes from the NRPA conference itself, it seems every park district is wrestling with labor and personnel issues. That's no surprise. I heard this in almost every educational session. Accounts of executive directors and senior leadership team members teaching preschool classes. That may not be the best move in our case, but teaching preschool classes, manning cash registers, and cleaning restrooms, many things that we're dealing with right here. I think our staff here needs to continue to be commended by the board and the community and rewarded for displaying a can-do attitude, as was described a moment ago, doing more with less and somehow finding innovative ways to make things happen and get things done. And as Executive Director Fullerton from Arlington Heights pointed out in her comments program, if there are individuals within the organization that are not committed to being a team player, then it may be time to replace and move past those people. As fast food restaurants and retail establishments in our area, which is also discussed at the conference, are throwing around signing bonuses, celebrity likenesses, and various gimmicks to entice potential new employees, I still think we can be more creative and innovative with recruitment campaigns. For example, in scrolling through our Instagram account this morning, I see some job postings there, but nothing that really jumps out at me and gets my attention. Everyone on the planet is hiring right now. I continue to challenge our marketing and HR departments to figure out how we can cut through the clutter of job postings and continue to recruit talented professionals. One of the other education sessions I attended topic of the program was Adult Recess, and it was presented by the Greensboro Park and Recreation Group. We've talked about this before in these meetings and some of our retreats in the past, but there's more that can be done to engage young adults in our community. We do a great job of serving children and teens, and then there seems to be maybe a 10 to 15 year gap until those teens become adults and have their own children, and those children join Park District programs. I'd like to see us take a look at the Adult Recess program offered by the Greensboro Parks and Recreation Group and determine if any of their ideas can either be applicable here and or if those ideas can inspire new ideas or programs so that we can engage that perhaps unmet segment. As for the trade show area of the conference, I was particularly impressed by the latest advances in LED technology for movie screens, video presentations, and so on. I'd like to see the district consider investing in this technology to further improve the quality of the movies in the park programming, which is very popular, and perhaps continue using the same equipment for drive-in movie options, which were trending during the pandemic and continue to remain popular and trend upward in the post-pandemic world. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Janner. Commissioner Ancier? So I don't have a ton of notes, just I went to a lot of the different programming that they focused on community outreach, diversity, inclusion, and trying to figure out the best ways to reach those in the community that maybe aren't being reached so that you can have a really good impact on when you're developing programming. So I know that in future Parks and Rec committees, we would like to welcome ideas for programming. So I won't get into the ideas I have for that right now. But overall, did have a very positive experience. I'm sorry it was rough for you if you had those kinds of interactions with people about the park district. It's very unfortunate. I did not run into that, but I can understand the frustration with that. But overall, I did take a lot out back from this, and that when we go into our survey time for the community survey, I'll be bringing a lot of these ideas at that time too.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Ancier. Commissioner Ruffin?
Thank you. For my first NRPA conference, I decided to choose a class route that mostly focused on revenue and finance. So I'm just going to highlight a few of those classes that I took and kind of my takeaways. So those classes included a deep dive into federal resources available to park districts, which provided many unique ways in which we can access funds. Included in the discussion were ARPA funds, which we've talked about here, the Land and Water Conservation Fund, and community project funding, which many of you may know as earmarks. I found this class to be one of the more beneficial that I took because I really walked away with some ideas that I'm excited to talk about further with staff. And I was also pleased to learn during the class of all the resources available to us. I know you mentioned this too, Commissioner Gibson, via the NRPA when it comes to exploring these unique funding sources further. I also attended a class that focused on park bonds that are achieved through ballot-based measures. I found this class to be helpful for obvious any future referendums that we may bring to the voters. One of the more interesting facts mentioned was that 40% of voters actually make their decisions on these types of referendums in the ballot box. And so how very important it is for when you're putting together the ballot language is, because of that. Another class that I enjoyed focused on unique continuous funding ideas for Parks and Rec departments. In this class, we learned how a Parks department based in California has had great success with a glamping program. And as awesome as that sounds, there are different, capabilities of a California district versus an Illinois Park district. But it really got me thinking how you can really, think outside the box to not only bring forth successful programs for the community, but add additional revenue for the park district. Admittedly, my favorite class, the one that I really took, that I think that I walked away with the most, was titled Together We're Better, Solidarity and Inclusion, Women in Parks and Rec. This focused on the Women in Parks and Rec group that is on Facebook right now, but is in the process, for obvious reasons, to move off of Facebook to more website-based, situation. And I just have to say that the sharing of ideas, the mutual respect, and helpful advice shared in this group is not only incredibly useful, but it's also just so refreshing to see. So for those female staff members and board members who are on Facebook, and salute to those who have chosen to not be on Facebook, I really strongly encourage you to join this group if you haven't already. I'm sure many of you already know about this, but I did not. And I've been blown away by the amount of sharing on that page. It's really wonderful to see. I mean, the search bar in that group is honestly probably better than Google in some ways. So I'm so appreciative for that opportunity and, furthering my education and learning so that I can best support our community and our staff is incredibly important to me. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Ruffin. Commissioner Thompson?
Yeah, so I had a few takeaways. I also attended the adult recess. I wanted to focus on underserved populations, and so I kind of developed my craft based off of that. So like Commissioner Janner said, I'm sorry, am I not on? There we go, sorry. Like Commissioner Janner said, the millennials are a very underserved population. The importance of play for everybody is huge, especially for young adults who sometimes have forgotten how to play. So that was really interesting, and how successful it was too at the park district that tried it. Another class I went to was on aging LGBTQIA plus populations, which is a huge underserved population and a good number of communities. This aging population will actually double by 2030, and we're going to have more and more of this. Very often they do not have children, spouses, support, resources, which can lead to a huge sense of isolation, and the park district can kind of help fill this void. Obviously, we all know isolation leads to a number of physical and mental health problems. They have a huge fear and distrust of government institutions. Unfortunately, the presenter didn't give a ton of ideas on how to bridge this gap other than providing more volunteer opportunities and more inclusive spaces, especially in advertising and things like that. But it's definitely something I'd love to see investigated here more in Naperville. Another seminar I chose to attend is on inclusive parks, which was not only just breaking down the physical barriers, but also the social barriers when children are playing together. They did quite a number of studies on accessible parks and everything. And a lot of the times they found like the higher the children were physically, like up in a play structure, the more higher levels of play were happening. And obviously a child who can't physically get themselves up there is not gonna have access to that type of higher level of play. So the idea is to making sure that parks are not just inclusive, but are actually, what was the term they used? Not just providing accommodations, but making sure everything on there that everybody can access. including adaptive play structures, which they did studies and found that most kids utilize the adaptive play structures more than the traditional play structures, even children who didn't necessarily need the adaptive play structures. Malleable play environment was really important for all abilities. The complex social experiences that were happening with sensory playing things, they were usually not necessarily being utilized as intended, but they're being utilized in like the more dramatic play arena. So it was a really interesting seminar on that. Besides that, I actually had the opportunity to network with some people, one of which was the director of senior programming from Michigan. And he was running this program where he was doing mystery meals for seniors, where you just sign up and you bring a bus full of seniors to a restaurant or something. And he said one of his most fun trips was he actually signed up the seniors, they didn't know where they were going, to go dine at a soup kitchen. And at first, the seniors were just livid. They were so mad they paid money to go eat at a soup kitchen. But it was actually, in the end, it was one of the best meals they'd ever had. Culinary students were the ones who were preparing the food. They got a tour of the facilities, and it actually led to a lot of volunteers. The seniors ended up volunteering at the shelter. So I thought it was a really cool way to draw on members of the community and bring different members of the community together. Beyond that, just the fact that we were able to be in person for these events, network, get to meet people, isn't something I necessarily, being from the financial state that I'm in, could have afforded to do on my own without the Park District's help. So I'm extremely appreciative of the opportunity. I have so many more resources and notes that I'm going to send to staff, so they'll be able to use those as well. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. Next up, we have Executive Director Ray Mcguire's report.
Thank you, Vice President Gibson. A couple of things to talk about here. In recognition of October being Breast Cancer Awareness Month, join Fort Hill Fitness for a seminar on Monday, October 25th at 7 p.m. at Fort Hill Activity Center, presented by Dooley Health and Care's Lauren O'Connor, who is a nurse practitioner. Learn the risk factors for breast cancer, treatment options, and more. Cost is $5 per person to attend. Fort Hill Fitness members can attend for free. For further details, just go to our website at www.napervilleparks.org. October is Creepy Critters Month at Knocknolds Nature Center. During this month-long event, families are invited to drop in anytime during the Nature Center's open hours, Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., and enjoy a variety of self-guided activities focusing on seasonal themes, including spiders, bones, and pumpkins. Okay. Visitors can also participate in an indoor scavenger hunt to win a fun prize. This is a free activity. Fall is a great time for sports. Take advantage of the upcoming exclusive shop event at Dick's Sporting Goods and save on your entire purchase from October 15th through the 18th. Find the 20% off coupon at www.napervilleparks.org. And that might not be bad based on all the shipping problems that we're having in this country. So go spend your money at Dick's, please. Halloween happenings here is back. Join us for this fun fall tradition on Sunday, October 24th from 1 to 4 p.m. Lots of themed activities, games, and goodies await at Naperville's best free Halloween Fest for kids ages 10 and under. Halloween happenings takes place at the Riverwalk Grand Pavilion located west of Centennial Beach and is made possible by the generosity of many community sponsors. Visit www.napervilleparks.org/Halloween happenings for further details. And finally, the Naperville Park District is more than just parks. With a variety of open positions available across the organization, now is a great time to join the Park District family. To view current available jobs and apply for those jobs, visit www.napervilleparks.org/employment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Move to approve the August 2021 Treasurers Report.
Second.
All right, roll call.
Commissioner Janner,
Yes.
Commissioner McBroom,
Yes.
Commissioner Ansier,
Yes?
Commissioner Ruffing,
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson,
Yes.
Vice President Gibson.
Yes. All right, next is the consent agenda, please, Bridget.
Item 6.1, approve September 2021 disbursements in the amount of $2,252,523.36. 6.2, approve August 2021 disbursements made through the Bank of America Purchasing Card Program in the amount of $376,945.23. 6.3, approve September 2021 disbursements made through the Bank of America Purchasing Card Program in the amount of $295,091.45. 6.4, approve September 2021 FinTech disbursements in the amount of $3,059.50. Item 6.5, approve September 2021 customer refunds in the amount of $2,260.20. 6.6, approve September 9, 2021 regular meeting minutes. 6.7, authorize the executive director to issue a purchase order to National Fitness Campaign LLC in the amount of $145,365 for fitness court equipment for the 95th Street Community Plaza located at Frontier Sports Complex. 6.8, move to exercise the option per contract to renew recycling dumpster services with Groot Inc. for 2022. 6.9, approve the purchase of one 2021 Ford Police Interceptor from Curie Motors Fleet for $47,756. 6.10, approve the purchase of two 2021 Steel Green SG52Z sprayers from Advanced Turf Solutions for $27,182.14. 6.11, approve the purchase of two 2021 Toro Greensmaster E-Triflex mowers from Reinders Inc. in the total amount of $100,020.94. 6.12, award the contract for the replacement of the damaged electric line at Springbrook Golf Course to Associated Electrical Contractors LLC for an amount not to exceed $41,448.75. 6.13, award the contract for the removal, inspection, and repair of the Springbrook Golf Course to Water Well Solutions LLC for an amount not to exceed $123,625. And 6.14, award the contract for the Springbrook Golf Course Maintenance Building Water Services Project to Mark Cressmery Construction LLC in the amount of $86,065.35.
Thanks, Bridget. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda?
6.7, please.
6.7. All right. Do you want to?
Move to accept consent agenda items 6.1 through 6.6 and 6.8 through 6.14.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Janner,
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson,
Yes.
Commissioner Ansier,
Yes.
Commissioner McBroom,
Yes.
Commissioner Ruffing,
Yes.
Vice President Gibson.
Yes.
Move to approve those same consent agenda items 6.1 through 6.6 and 6.8 through 6.14.
Second.
Voice vote.
Voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right. Motion carries. All right. 6.7.
So I'll read it again. Move to approve the executive director to issue a purchase order to National Fitness Campaign LLC in the amount of $145,365 for fitness court equipment for the 95th Street Community Plaza located at Frontier Sports Complex. I think there's probably a consensus of the board to move forward with this based on conversation at the last meeting, but over $145,000 for something like this just seems excessive to me in our current climate here. So I'll vote no on this one.
Can I have a second for the motion?
Second.
Any comments?
Yeah, can someone refresh my memory? Was this a planned addition to 95th?
This was the outdoor fitness court
This was the outdoor fitness court that we,
with the grant we received.
oh, correct.
I just want to make a quick comment. I think we've talked about this before, but I know that staff are actively, trying to find sponsorships for this. I can't remember. There was one that was just opened locally within the last month. And they clearly had a number of sponsors that helped fund this project. And I've had, now more than one conversation with staff, and I'm very encouraged that their due diligence will result in some or hopefully all, or at least close to all, to fund this, so that, we will recoup most, or, some, most, all of the $145,000 number.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if once the district approves the money coming from the park district, I don't see a sponsor motivated. We've already paid for it, so I don't see a sponsor motivated to come in and say, well, we'll pay for it again. I mean, they may want to do some advertising out there, but I can't imagine once the district approves this expenditure from our own budget, a sponsor's going to say, well, I'll pay for it again. Like what we.
Well, it's my understanding that when they're a sponsor, they get some recognition, and that's very enticing to a lot of local businesses and organizations.
Yeah, I apologize. Yeah, this was something I didn't support. For me, it's more, I don't know, other commissioners get the same thing I do. People ask me all the time, why don't we have this? Why don't we have that? And I tell them, anything's possible if we have community support. Come to a board meeting, come to a Parks and Rec meeting. I mean, how often do we have someone come to a Parks and Rec meeting and give us an idea? I mean, it happens, but it's rare. This one, it looks like a cool idea, but I've not heard anyone, I haven't seen anyone come to a board meeting. It'd be great if it could be paid for, if we knew that. I guess if I had that assurance up front, then I'd have a different view of it. But the fact that I personally haven't seen the community demand for it makes me hesitant, and I won't support it either.
I'd take away a different view on it, just because in conversing with staff when they first presented it to us at the Parks and Rec meeting, and then thinking upon it further, it gives us a really great opportunity to have an equalizer for workout equipment. We do have this wonderful facility right here, but you do have to pay for a membership, and even with reduced rates, that's sometimes out of people's reach. This would be actual equipment that people could just come to and use. And I've been out in the parks where we have this equipment on paths and stuff, and people use it, they utilize it. This isn't just a silly expenditure, it's an actual place where people can exercise and recreate. Beyond that, I also see the potential for hosting classes there. You would want to take a class to learn how to use each individual piece of equipment. Workout classes are highly popular, and we've seen in the pandemic here, outdoor workout classes are even more popular. So I can see us getting revenue from this. I can see this being a lasting structure. I had similar concerns about the cost. I had similar concerns, which I brought up at the meeting, as well with maintenance. This is equipment that's designed to be outdoors. It is literally what they do, and they're experts in their field. So I'm full support of it. I really think it's a cool, unique idea. And I think, like I said, talking about the adult recess, adults need more opportunity for play and more opportunity for recreation. And I think this provides all those things.
To Commissioner Thompson's point, I did notice in our capital projects open house that happened last month, there were actually several comments from residents asking for more stationary adult workout features in our parks. And I mean, that wasn't even soliciting for this project, but I thought it was a nice coincidence that we are developing this new feature, and even unsolicited through the capital projects open house, many residents asked for this or something much like this. I think this actually goes above and beyond what they were even asking for. Are there any other comments on the fitness court? Roll call. Do we need to move to approve that item?
We had the motion.
Oh, okay. Motion to approve item 6.7, authorize the executive director to issue a purchase order to National Fitness Campaign LLC in the amount of $145,365 for the fitness court equipment for the 95th Street Community Plaza located at Frontier Sports Complex.
Second.
And then roll call, please.
Vice President Gibson,
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson,
Yes.
Commissioner Ansier,
Yes?
Commissioner Janner,
No.
Commissioner McBroom,
No.
Commissioner Ruffing.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. All right, 7.2 attorney's report.
Thank you. Good evening. At the September 9th, 2021 meeting, you directed me in my position as ethics advisor under the board policies General Board Policy 3.5, to report back to you on whether an August 29th social media post by Commissioner McBroom, which he posted in a private Facebook page as part of a private Facebook group, constituted a violation of General Board Policy 4.1, Board Member Ethics and Conduct. I have reviewed and confirmed that the posts do not implicate any statutes or other board policies. The only board policies at issue are those under 4.1. We must all recognize that as a unit of government, we are in very turbulent waters with this inquiry. First Amendment protections concerning governmental policy decisions and speech about them are present, and we have to navigate them. Remember that the constitutional protections limit the reach of what government can do. That's their purpose. The underlying fact here is that Commissioner McBroom disagrees with the majority of the Board of Commissioners on a matter of policy. And as our board policies recognize, that is his unassailable right. The district's policies recognize that commissioners may disagree, but at the same time, those policies do set boundaries which are intended to help facilitate the ability of the district to accomplish and deliver on its mission. The situation at hand here is further complicated by the fact that the forum in which the posts were made was considered private, and there led to expectations of privacy, but it also implicates First Amendment rights of the right of association and the right of free speech. Again, the Park District's policies recognize the right to associate with people like-minded views or whoever you want to associate with, but at the same time, setting appropriate boundaries so that we don't interfere with the delivery of the services required to fulfill our mission. And lastly, there is clearly an opportunity and an emphasis in the board policies for transparency. And we have to recognize that commitment by the board and the board policies, and we have to move carefully with a nuanced deliberation there. It's not something that's easily done. It has to be done with specifics. And that brings me to the preliminary matter of that emphasis on transparency, which is found in Board Policy 2.4, is what was and makes, when Vice President Gibson brought it forward, the issues forward, that's what the board policy says should happen. Any commissioner who believes that a provision of the board policies has been violated may notify the board of the alleged violation. The board policy doesn't say you do what the Bible says and go to one person one-on-one. It says you bring it forward to the board. Any commissioner who is the subject of an alleged violation of the board policies may submit a statement in response to the allegation. Commissioner McBroom was given an opportunity to make a response, and that was important, as you'll see in my report, part of my recommendation. I also talked with Commissioner McBroom's attorney in the course of this inquiry and obtained responses from him in the course of the investigation. The policy further states, the board shall review the allegation and any statement by the accused commissioner, and at its discretion may review and investigate and evaluate facts and circumstances. And based on its findings and determination, the board may take no action or such other lawful action as it deems appropriate. Well, as reflected in the public comment we heard this evening, and that we've received over the course of the time since September 9th, there is a concern in the community about whether some illegal meeting of commissioners held or was held or somehow coordinated an attack on this. And so I have looked into that. The most farcical of this has been that somehow Commissioner Gibson and I met to write her issues statement in connection with the other three commissioners. And it's a farce. I don't know where people get these conspiracy theories, but I certainly didn't meet with Commissioner Gibson to write any statement for her. And I've investigated, and I can find no evidence of any coordinated attack here. It was the issues were brought out. Commissioner Gibson set it forth in specific detail, and everybody was afforded the opportunity to make a comment or not. I want to put to bed the idea that there has been some illegal meeting in violation of the Open Meetings Act. I can find no evidence of that. I've looked for it. I've asked for it. And in particular, I happen to know that I didn't meet with people, even though a couple of emails have said so. Turning then to the actual subject matter of the inquiry, I looked at each of the statements that were referenced by Commissioner Gibson and analyzed them under section 4.1. And I've filed a written report with the Board of Commissioners about each of those and going through it. But for purposes of this evening, I'm just going to summarize my findings in general as this. Portions of the social media posts of Commissioner McBroom concern that policy disagreement that he has with the majority of the board on a matter of policy. Those portions of the post are absolutely beyond the reach of the Board of Commissioners. Our ethics policies do not apply to them. That is his absolute and inviolable right. We cannot reach those kinds of statements. However, other discrete portions of the social media post do implicate the ethical standards set forth in 4.1 about not interfering with the enforcement or implementation of board policies that have been made. And there are a couple discrete portions of them that challenge the enforcement, which is a problem for staff, and that implicated that perhaps the executive director was not going to enforce them. Those are problems. Commissioner McBroom addressed that at the meeting in September. Apologized to Executive Director Mcguire. And that is the part of it where I think we've all had a learning experience that however private, however well-intended, however much about a policy disagreement, talking about enforcement where people are going to challenge our staff or the executive director about following through on a decision of the majority of the board, that's the boundary that we have to be cognizant of, and I think that everybody is, and I think that this was a learning moment to further enforce that. Lastly, with respect to the emoji and that portion of the post, the information I received not only from Commissioner McBroom, but also taking into account Commissioner Gibson's eloquent statements about it, and then what we heard from the community, there is no consensus about what it meant or what its intent was, and clearly Commissioner McBroom expressed his intent about what was it, and with so little consensus about what this thing means, as opposed to actual words, I think that we have to be very careful then to take any action about something that's clearly ambiguous and in terms of what it meant or what its intention was. What little consensus exists around the emoji, frankly, is that the board must be vigilant and intentional in finding ways to focus on the work it has before it, as opposed to the ad hominem attack of anybody on any particular person. That's what the ethical standard is that's not appropriate. Nobody should be attacking anybody personally. We need to focus on the work. And so in that respect, the emoji gets to remind us of that value, that we should be focusing on the issues, not on each other as people or villainizing anybody. Respect is required under the ethical standards. I think we've all figured out that no matter what's going on, things can be misconstrued, and we need to be careful as we work. So I conclude my report, the written report you have, with the recommendation that there be no further corporate action here, and that's for 3 reasons. One, the issues statement from Commissioner Gibson and the ensuing conversation provided the opportunity for clarification, education, and understanding on the board policies, what's expected of each of you to work together for the benefit of the community and the district and the people you represent, and also how we implement and enforce the decisions that the majority of the board direct be made. Secondly, Commissioner McBroom has already acknowledged and apologized to Executive Director Mcguire for the statements and their impact on implementation and enforcement, so that learning moment has occurred. And third, the First Amendment protections for private political speech and the right of association here, particularly as enforced recently by the Supreme Court of the United States, say that we don't have the authority or power to take action. And this is aggravated, I think, in this situation by the underlying facts of how these statements came to light. It was a private page and a private group, and they were then taken through screenshots and published, tagging the Park District and others by a fake account in the name of an Elizabeth Bennett, all of whose information, if you look it up, is all tied to the novel Pride and Prejudice. It's a completely fake account. It's anonymous. I think Commissioner McBroom called it a troll, whatever. Those kinds of things where the expectation of privacy in a formal group is what it is, and then it's violated by others. That goes to the heart of the First Amendment protections that limit the reach of what government, you as a body, can do to any resident or citizen, including each other. So I am loath to recommend any formal action. I did give you one alternative, though, I gave you two alternatives, but one of the alternatives was, if you think it would be helpful to find a way forward for all of you, the Open Meetings Act does allow us to go into executive session with a person from IAPD or IPRA to help us learn how to talk with each other in a more constructive fashion. That's available as a remedy. I think that's up to you, whether you want to need to spend a Saturday doing that. Other clients of ours have done it so that they can find a way to communicate on issues. But other than that, I believe that the community has expressed itself. Everybody has come to an understanding of how social media can be abused or used and misinterpreted. So with that, my recommendation remains no further actions needed. I believe that we're ready to move forward and focus on the issues, but I'll be pleased to answer any questions you have.
Thanks, Dirk. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a statement to make.
Yeah, the rules do permit Commissioner McBroom to make a response to my findings, so.
So I really honestly would rather not have anyone waste any more time on this issue. But I believe a personal character attack was sprung on me in a public meeting. So having the opportunity to make public record my response before we all move on, I appreciate. I'm not going to give the accusations the respect to comment on, as I think most reasonable people can see right through what really happened here. Well, I think it's a shame that the dais chose to direct taxpayer resources towards what I think is a made-up ethics inquiry. I do appreciate Attorney Price's thorough inquiry into the topic. Take mild exception from the finding that maybe I challenged the authority, or however the word was, or the ability of staff to enforce policy. I think there's probably a gray area there. But when my supporters or people who look to me or think I'm their voice ask me when a new policy comes out, how is this going to be enforced, and especially in the COVID environment, a masking policy, I'm not going to tell them to walk into a facility unmasked and see what happens. Okay, I'm going to tell them to contact the park district, and you ask them and find out what would happen. Right. So I understand this gray area. I understand where Attorney Price is coming from. I just want to make that statement. But appreciate his thorough inquiry and his findings that there are no grounds for taking any further actions here. I believe his memo is going to be made public after the meeting. I encourage anyone who's followed the story to read it, draw your own conclusions. I want to thank the 60 plus residents who sent in emails defending my freedom of speech, my character, many of whom I've never met. Even a few who disagree with my positions on policy, but were mature enough to call out political shenanigans like this. We can pretend that this was about a laugh emoji, or I think we can be honest and call it what it is. In my opinion, clearly the opinion of many others, this incident was rooted in my open and very vocal support for challenging the governor on COVID mandates that affect Park District taxpayers, my continued questioning of arbitrary and anti-science-based guidelines coming from Springfield. Our new commissioners have not been on the dais long enough to witness this firsthand, but the frequently changing, unclear, and inconsistent guidelines that have been placed on local municipalities have turned the lives of Naperville Park District staff upside down for over 2 years now, almost 2 years now. Biggest losers have been our constituents and their children, and it's still going on today. At least in Illinois it is. As far as me continuing to ask questions and be outspoken on what I believe in, that's not going to stop, no matter how many of my laugh emojis are uncovered. There's also a rather large contingency of Naperville residents who see me as their voice on the park board and expect me to continue to do so. My question for some of my fellow commissioners on the dais, and really anyone who's listening to this right now, is when will you start asking questions? We've been living in a world of hypocrisy for nearly 2 years now, and it appears to be getting more brazen by the day. 3 large galas were held in Naperville over the last month, all indoors, and hundreds of people unmasked, not socially distanced, with pictures brazenly posted all over the internet for everyone to see. The Illinois Superintendents Association also posted several pictures of a very large indoor meeting held 2 weeks ago, unmasked and not distanced, while high schoolers had to have their homecoming held outdoors and guests had to show vaccine cards or negative tests to attend. Equally absurd, kindergartners are still sitting at their desk muzzled for 7 hours a day with zero data or science to justify. I was also informed that even one of our park commissioners hosted an indoor party with several unmasked guests just days before supporting a zero mask exception policy at park facilities. Yet here we are supporting masking of children during high endurance athletics and leaving no exception for adults to unmask during workouts, vaccinated or not. When will someone ask questions? After nearly 2 years, I understand the answer may be never, and blind, unquestioning obedience will continue for far too many. Years from now, we're all going to be able to look back and reflect on how we reacted to this pandemic. Did we ask hard questions? Did we push back on anything? Or will we feel proud that we did a really good job at making, shaming, coercing people into following arbitrary rules against their will mandated on them from people who live far away from us? I know how I'll answer that, and if asking hard questions can subject you to cancel culture, so be it. I'll sleep well at night. So, get that off my chest. All that said, I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to get back to the people's business, is what they elected us for. When our new board members were elected earlier this year, I stood right over here. I invited them to reach out to me for a one-on-one. I never heard from any of them. Admittedly, I didn't follow up with them on my offer either. Maybe we should revisit that. I'm under no illusion that we're going to see eye to eye on things, but I am sure we can find a way to work together on behalf of the taxpayers who elected us. If others are willing to try, I know I am. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Groom. Would anybody else like to make comments? No?
Just
Go ahead,
briefly.
Commissioner Anzier.
Yeah, just, back to report. Thank you, Dirk, for your hard work on that. As I said at the previous meeting when this came out in the first place, and I'm a person who I like to be very clear. I hate being misunderstood, and I absolutely hate drama. So I'm going to make it clear again what I'd said before. This was speaking for me, of course, and you may agree and probably do, but this was never about politics. I don't care what your politics are. I don't care what anybody's politics are. We're here to make decisions based on best interest of the community. That's how I make my decisions for all of this. That's why I came to this board, is to do this. So the inquiry into it, to look into, was there a violation? Was there undermining of the board with Ray? That was addressed. I'm happy with that. I think people are putting too much emphasis on the laugh emoji thing. I honestly, I don't care about that either. It was disrespectful. We didn't get an apology for it, and that's fine. I'm moving on from that as well. All I want now is to go forward. We all respect each other. We're all adults here. We're going to do our jobs here. And I am totally fine with this outcome and everything. I was not looking forward to anybody booting anybody from the board or losing jobs or losing anything. That was never what this was about for me. We took care of the situation, as Dirk said. So I think we've, done the job we're supposed to do, and we're going to move on now. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Anzier.
Only that our constituents don't want us dealing with this kind of stuff, right? I think, having been around for 10 years, I can safely say that if you polled our commissioner or our constituents, they don't want us investigating each other and this kind of thing. It's just not something the public wants to see. The public wants to see us focused on the business at hand. I think hopefully now, after this exercise, we're all on that page. And, hopefully as of 8:25 p.m. today, we'll never have to hear about emojis and some of this other stuff, and we can literally just get back to business here, which I agree with Commissioner Anzier 100%. So. Thank you.
All right. Any new business? All right. If there's no new business, the next scheduled meeting, the regular meeting of the Board of Park Commissioners, is going to be October 28th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. at Fort Hill Activity Center in the multipurpose room. Do we have an executive session? No? All right.
Move to adjourn the October 24th, 2021 regular meeting at 8:23 p.m.
Second?
All right, voice vote. Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, motion carries.